This ViewFinder episode is supported by UC Davis Health, transforming the future of healthcare.
The baby boomers, came at a time when they just had a huge number of kindergartners, huge number going into college, and now a huge number that are becoming seniors.
I remember growing up, I said, oh, I'm never gonna get old. I'm never gonna get old, like I could control it. And now here I am, and I look sometimes out, dang, I'm old,
We have a tendency to think that, oh, I'll be fine tomorrow. Well, that's not necessarily true.
Baby boomers are starting to reach older age, and they're starting to face the issues of older age with their health. And commonly, the baby boomer generation, particularly on the younger end, might be dealing with parents and grandparents, and they often are dealing and helping with child care or grandchildren care. So they're really considered to be the sandwich generation.
Baby boomers are being active about their health care, and what they want in the last third of their life.
The end of World War II in 1945 gave way to a new generation. As American soldiers reunited with their wives and families returned to normalcy, the birth rate spiked. Known as the baby boomers, people born between 1946 and 1964 were part of a generation that enacted lasting social and cultural change.
How fortunate I feel to have been able to grow up in the 50s, and the 60s were an exciting time. And the 70s were wild times, and we had great music,
You could see the civil rights movement, and it was shaking up things. I remember the women's lib movement when women were burning their bras, and it's like, right on, because men didn't have to wear those things. You could go to college, you could have a baby and a husband and a career and be the kind of woman that could have it all.
The generation that had it all is now moving on to a new phase in life, retirement and beyond. The first wave of baby boomers turned 70 in 2016, and every 8 seconds for the next 30 years, a boomer will turn 70 in this country.
You look at yourself in the mirror, or you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror from the back, you go, who's that old guy? Oh, it's me, and it's kind of shocking. But at the same time, you're still the person looking out of those eyeballs, you're still you.
I think it's always a surprise to people that they're as old as they are. And at the same time, unprepared for what that actually means.
Heather Young is the dean of the Betty Irene Morse School of Nursing at UC Davis. A boomer herself and a gerontology expert, she expects boomers to redefine aging.
The generation before the baby boomers were called the silent generation. And in a lot of respects, they were silent regarding their health care and were willing to accept a very paternalistic delivery system. And baby boomers are not interested in that at all and really want to have a say in the kind of care they get, how it's delivered, and their relationship with their healthcare providers.
Pam Montana is one boomer who is not staying silent about her health challenges. The 62-year-old was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's in 2016. With her husband Bob Linscheid at her side, she's facing this disease head-on.
This is what Alzheimer's looks like. It doesn't necessarily look like your grandma in a wheelchair. So I'm hoping that, the boomers will really pay attention to what they're feeling.
We were in Hawaii on vacation, and I was driving the car, and we were going from lunch back to our hotel because I had a phone call. We get in the car, where are we going? Well, we're going back to the hotel because I have a call with Steve. And okay, and then no more than 2 minutes later, now tell me, why are we going back to the hotel again? So it was that exact repetitive questioning that took place within minutes of each other that I pulled the car over and I looked her square in the face and I said, do you realize that you've asked me the same question 3 times in the last 7 minutes? And she didn't realize it.
Since her diagnosis, Pam has been outspoken about her disease, speaking to groups, joining in walks with the Alzheimer's Association, writing a blog, and even lobbying Congress in Washington, D.C., all in an effort to draw attention to a disease for which there is currently no cure.
Patient advocacy is a critical component of our healthcare system. In the old days, as recently as 20 years ago, patient advocacy was only in its infancy. Nowadays, though, we benefit greatly from patient advocates, a large proportion of which are in the baby boomer population. That's one of the biggest contributions that the baby boomer population has brought. They bring in a wisdom that you couldn't get from just reading a textbook or reading a magazine, and it's a pragmatic contribution that I think will be valued for generations to come.
I hope that the boomers are as vocal as I am and as willing to advocate and willing to be vulnerable. I mean, we have seen a lot in our lifetime.
So when did you start noticing any difficulties with thinking or memory?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think initially it was probably around 2012. We were living in Chico at the time. And
today, Pam is at the UCSF Memory and Aging Center to see if she qualifies for a clinical trial. It's another way she's trying to drive change, if not for herself, then for others who follow.
I'm going to give you 4 things to remember.
Okay.
The 4 things are jacket, train, violin, and apple.
Jacket, train, violin, apple.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, good. Now, do you remember the 4 things I asked you to remember? Try your best.
Watch. I mean, I'm guessing I've had so many words today. I knew something was wrong with me, and everybody kept dismissing me and saying, well, you look great and you seem fine. If you think something's going on with you, don't let anybody tell you that it's not, because you know more than anyone else what's really happening in your life.
The retirement that Pam and Bob had envisioned for themselves is now uncertain. Bob left his position as CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce to help care for Pam. He's since taken on consulting work, which allows him to work mostly from home.
Having to rely on somebody sometimes is hard for me, but knowing that he's there 24/7 whenever I need him and changing his work schedule around for my schedule has just been invaluable. As he likes to say, you know, we're fighting together.
The caregiver role that Bob is playing is increasingly common among baby boomers. Many boomers are entering their golden years by caring for another family member. Sometimes it's a spouse or a grandchild, but mostly it's an aging parent in their 80s or 90s.
You are doing better. Yes. It looks like you ate your food, huh? That was good, Dad. Would you like to go for a ride? We could go to the park and go for a walk in the park. Would you like to do that?
Dad grew up in Linton, North Dakota. He was born in Solon, and he was a little farm boy. He ended up being a pilot for the Navy in World War II. When he got out, well, he knew my mother from high school. He married her in 1945, and then I was there in 1946. So, yeah, I think that was the first year of the baby boomers.
Susan Franklin has been a caregiver for both her parents. First for her mother until she died, and now for her 94-year-old father, Monty. She sleeps at his house every night, even though she only lives 4 blocks away.
Okay, Dad.
Caregiving is a really prevalent issue in our society. Boomers are often caregivers, and it takes its toll over time. It's usually a commitment that happens over years, and it involves a fair amount of physical demand. It might be direct care that someone is providing, but it's also the emotional part of it, of providing the supports necessary, maybe in the form of transportation or helping to manage medications or helping with routines. But all of those things occur at a time when a baby boomer might be balancing other kinds of stresses and demands like work and raising their own kids. And it's also something that sometimes people neglect their own health because there's not enough time in the day to take care of another person as well as themselves.
I finally decided when my mother died, you know, I would like to have a caregiver daily during the day shift. And my father requires a lot of care, so even though it's 8 hours, I spend a couple of hours working with the caregiver to make sure that my dad gets up and we get him dressed and we get everything going, get him breakfast and everything, and then I have time later on in the day to get out and have a little more flexibility.
Recognizing that she needed to leave the house more often for her own emotional well-being, Susan recently purchased a used wheelchair van. It's brought much needed freedom to Susan and her father.
You ready for the park? Oh, Jesus.
I like putting his hat on, his veteran hat, because some people will come up and thank him, and it'll open him up and where he'll be a little more active and talking to people, so it's really important.
He wants to shake your hand.
Yeah, Dad.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Just being outside in the sun with the scenery and the people, yeah, it's a good thing to do.
4 years ago, at the age of 66, as Susan was caring for both her parents, she faced her own health crisis, a diagnosis of kidney cancer. She underwent surgery and enrolled in a clinical trial at the UC Davis Comprehensive Cancer Center. So far, regular CT scans show good news.
The lungs look perfectly clear. All we see are these normal blood vessels and airways that go through the lungs. But there's no evidence on the CT scan that the cancer had come back. And 57% of all cancers are diagnosed in folks who are over the age of 65. It's tough enough for those people to deal with their cancer, but if they have to, say, deal with an elderly parent who has special needs that take away from that individual's own battle with cancer, having the cancer in remission is one thing, but you still need to take care of you. There needs to be some means that we could support our baby boomers so that they're able to navigate their cancer battle while also taking care of those other issues at home.
I've been very lucky relative to the cancer, you know, because at the same point of time, my parents are getting increasingly worse, and it's sort of like, okay, how am I going to deal with the fact that my parents are requiring more care, and what if I'm not around?
For many baby boomers, the situation sometimes hits a crisis point when their parents need more care than they can provide.
All right, so what time did you say? 11 o'clock.
That crisis point is when Janie Guarneri Dame says many boomers reach out to professionals like her.
I am a geriatric care manager. I work with seniors and the senior population. That doesn't mean that I just talk with seniors. I actually work with baby boomers. I work with the adult children of the seniors who are at risk or who have problems living at home alone.
Janie is a boomer and knows exactly what many of her clients' families are going through. She cared for her own mother until she died at 93.
I brought her here to my home, took her out of her home. We kept her there as long as possible. And when it was time, I just said, Mama, I can't keep coming over here 10 times a day. You have to come. Or I can't spend the night here every night. And she said, okay. So that was very, very difficult, bringing your loved one and watching them go through that. But it was the most rewarding thing I've ever done, is to be of service to her.
Janie and her business partner Juliana Isaac run Ask Janie, where they field questions about how, when, and where to care for an aging parent.
A lot of baby boomers, they're so internet savvy that they go online and they think that they can find all the answers. And the unfortunate part is that the answers aren't online. And they're reading Medicare guidelines, they're reading medical journals, there are things like that to find out what's going on. And baby boomers, they want to do it themselves. You can't do it yourself.
Hi, Janie.
Hi.
Oh, it's good to see you.
How are you?
Oh, yeah.
Come on in.
Lyle Cunningham is one of Janie's boomer clients. She helped place his stepmother into a senior living community in Orangevale.
So how's Mom doing?
You know, her dementia is definitely, deteriorating. It's getting worse, and we know that's going to happen. But the other thing is as a result of that, she doesn't drink water like she should. And so even she just had some blood work done, and they said, you know, her kidneys are getting overtaxed because she. So when we go over, we look in the refrigerator. There's all these bottles of water, but she doesn't drink them. So I reminded her about it. She goes, "I know I'm supposed to drink more water, but you know." And she goes, "I do," but she doesn't. Right. So
it's worth it if she's not drinking fluids to have somebody check on her every few hours. Maybe start with like every 3 hours. What I like to do now is maybe drive over and see her and just say hi to her.
Janie advises boomers to check in on their parents in person. That's because seniors may not be truthful in phone calls about how they're doing because they fear losing their independence. Or dad might cover for mom because they think they'll be separated.
Take time out of your busy schedule to go look at them. Look in their refrigerator. Is there food? If you bring food, are they eating the food? Look at their clothes. Have they changed their clothes the last time you saw them? Are they wearing the same things? Look at their washing machines. Are they using the soap? Because if you don't do that and you believe them when you're on the phone, you're going to get a phone call from the police or from the hospital saying your mom fell in the shower. And that's your crisis.
This is my son, my boy.
Yeah.
Hello.
Did you have fun today?
Yeah, look how nice your hair looks.
Oh, it looks
Of course,
beautiful.
my hair always looks nice.
Well, I mean, you just got it done
I never
today,
go.
right?
No, I didn't. I don't.
Oh.
I don't. Oh, I always have to have my hair nice, and my clothes look good.
Yeah,
You
look
look
great.
beautiful.
You know, she lost my dad last August, and so her life has really changed because just 2 years ago they were living in their own home, and as her dementia began to take a hold, it became unsafe because she couldn't cook anymore, for example, because she didn't remember if she salted the food or not, and so it would become inedible. And then they started mixing up their medications, so that became an issue. So at a certain point it became obvious that we needed to get them, you know, in a place where they could have better care. So hey, are you drinking water?
No, I have to go to the bathroom all the time if I drink the water.
That's the idea. You have to drink the water.
Mm-hmm.
Will you drink water for me?
Not now, I won't.
Not right this second,
No.
but you have to start drinking some water.
I do.
Because
your kidneys have to work.
Yeah, they're working fine, honey. They're working just fine, honey.
One of the questions that I get from my baby boomers when I drive them around and I show them places, they say, how would we be able to afford this? I have to give them the options that are at hand for their senior loved one. But what I tell them, you need to plan now. You may think that you've got 20 years or 30 years before this is going to affect you. But trust me, you have to plan now. So I tell them long-term care. And the younger you are, the more cost-effective it is. So you can get a policy when you're healthy for minimal. If you wait until you're 70 or 80, it's going to be astronomical.
Lyle's parents had a long-term care policy, which he says they've made great use of for both Lorraine and Lyle's father, Donald, until he died.
That's my sweetheart. I'll cry. I can't do this.
It's okay.
I can't. That's good. Hi, honey. You go sit there and then I won't cry so much. Because I miss him. He was the most wonderful man.
Certainly as you start taking care of your parents, you know, your mortality becomes more and more real, and you start, you know, thinking about that.
We spend a lot more time planning our death than we plan our lives. So some people will do wills and estate planning, but haven't really figured out what do they want to do for their own lives between now and when someone executes their will. I really recommend that people sit down and think about what's going on in their lives, what are the likely things that might happen. If you have certain chronic conditions like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's, there's a somewhat expected trajectory, and so getting a durable power of attorney for healthcare is vital. And that means having somebody who is designated who can speak for you if you're not able to speak for yourself. And then looking at your financial health and your future in that respect, sitting down with a financial planner and getting a sense of what you can expect.
Most people don't realize that Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care. They just don't know that. They're surprised. But the fact is it doesn't pay, and we need to figure out other ways to pay for it.
Former AARP President Janine Ingles says that while long-term care insurance is one option, it's often too expensive or too limiting for people. So many seniors will end up relying on family caregivers, or they'll work longer than retirement age, which she says some boomers may welcome.
You know, there were a lot of companies that said partners had to retire at 60, and they're looking at that and saying, do they have to retire? What's the point here? It was defined and it was very prescriptive before, and now baby boomers are saying, I'm not sure I want to do it that way. I'd like to do it this way. Or I'll do 10 hours a week volunteering, and I'll continue to work 10 hours a week, and I'll do other travel. So there's a lot more flexibility, and that's assumed, and it's expected by baby boomers.
Well, the good news with baby boomers is that we are healthier as a group, healthier and actually have more financial resources than people before us going into older age. And so if we've stayed fit, if we've been active physically and being concerned about our diet, that really sets us up for a healthier older age.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, good.
For me, this is part of my retirement, is to stay fit, or to try and stay fit for sure.
Twice a week, Vela Byers goes to Crunch Fitness for a workout class called Boom, designed just for baby boomers like her. She says the best thing, it's all free, including a gym membership, covered by her insurance through a nationwide program called Silver Sneakers.
As part of the Silver Sneakers benefit, we partner with Medicare supplements, leading Medicare health plans, along with group retiree programs across the nation. We were looking at, okay, we know that we have a large group of individuals aging into this Silver Sneakers world, so we wanted to make sure we had a great opportunity for them, keeping their interests peaked.
My mother pretty much, she walked, whereas now we're just a lot more aware. Everybody my age is trying to be fit. They want to walk, they want to jog, swim, do something, be in a results transformation class, something that's going to make you healthier.
I'm on the tail end of the boomer generation, so I understand the stresses that come along with the idea of potentially taking care of aging parents and making decisions for those individuals that made decisions for us all of our lives. Working out is so important to really help with that stress.
Exercise is crucial for boomers to maintain their physical health beyond retirement. But experts say boomers also have to look out for their emotional health, especially if they're caregivers.
Probably the thing that I need to remember is I need to take care of myself in order to take care of her. So when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, sometimes she doesn't remember that I went, but it's sort of like remembering the old days when I was involved in sports, that I just have to keep physically fit.
I intend to be able to say, okay, I'd like to travel a couple of places and I need to just go ahead and arrange it so that someone is caring for my father that I feel very comfortable with, and so that I can go out and do things.
My biggest piece of advice is to not walk the journey alone. Whether it's informal support, such as family and friends, to more formal support, such as coming to a support group like this. Don't walk the journey alone.
Michelle Nevins of the Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center is speaking to a support group organized by Ask Janie. It combines wine, food, and most important, camaraderie.
I felt compelled to come to the support group just to connect with other people, because sometimes you second guess yourself, like, am I doing the right thing? So it was a relief to hear people who were further up the road, meaning they had gone beyond what I was in, and hearing their stories and struggles, it just tears at your heartstring, but it's also encouraging to know you're not alone.
With 10,000 boomers a day turning 65, the next 10, 20, or even 30 years are wide open for the generation that shaped the cultural landscape of this country.
Baby boomers are awesome. I mean, everything that everybody has, they take from us. their style, their dress, the music, everything. It's a baby boomer. We do that. So I'm excited about this age and stage in my life and being a healthy person.
My future now is all about Alzheimer's and raising awareness and advocating. You know, that's part of my job I consider now. I feel like I have very much a full-time job, just as busy as I was when I was working at Intel, to try to get more people involved and to remove the stigma and to get people to talk about it and to get diagnosed.
My dad's a senior, he's worked hard, he's contributed to our country, he's a veteran, and I elect to take care of him and get him through this.
Our lives are different, you know, kids move away. One of the big reasons I moved back was so that I could be with my parents because they were aging. And I'm so glad that I made that decision because I got to have some great times with my mom and my dad together.
For boomers, I think it's really important to understand what's going to keep you refreshed and healthy over your lifespan, because you have a long way to go. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Baby boomers are not looking at limits. They're looking at growth. But it's a tremendous opportunity. And it's an opportunity to try things and do things and work on things and meet people that you never would have had this opportunity in years gone by.
This ViewFinder episode is supported by UC Davis Health, transforming the future of healthcare.